We're live.
What up? mAng and Neads, Sonic Garden Radio. What day it is? Sunday. Sunday.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the mAng and Neads Show, live on Sonic Gardens Radio, where we run a daily show, bring you some daily banter, and Sonic Gardens music, guest call-ins, and the newly added acoustic session in front of our majestic sleeping lion, painted by the great Ryan Warner and regular on the mAng and Neads Show.
Expert.
Today we have in the house with us Mr. Nate Collins and Kris Maiurano of Chaka. Hometown heroes. And now to the front desk here with Mr. Uwad.
What is up?
What is up?
How do we do?
We're good, man.
So, yeah, we got Nate and Kris out here. They got a fresh tune for us, I believe.
Yeah, they do.
They're going to play it.
All right. Well, we'll just get right to that.
We want to hear some music right off the bat. We got just, plenty of time to talk about everything.
Anybody out there, hit that subscribe button. Help support Sonic Gardens.
Call
local
us,
musicians.
too. We got a hotline.
And hotline is 607-373-HEAT.
All right.
Get your question or whatever you want to talk about ready, and give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.
Show me what you got, Kris.
Thank you guys so much for having us. It's nice to get out of the house.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Just getting out of the house is nice. We're going to start off a little slow with the Redemption song here.
Awesome.
Ready? World pirates, yes, they rabbi, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption song. Redemption song. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them are gonna stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say that it's just a part of it. You got to fulfill the book. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption song. redemption song. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them are gonna stop at a time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say that it's just a part of it. You got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption song, redemption song, redemption song, redemption song.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Mang and Neads show.
Yo, Kris, you're dude. I apologize. I had to mute you in the front end because there was like an effect going
Crackling
in the
like a
vocal. It was
Yeah.
and I didn't take it out of your ear because I didn't want to completely block it, but I think it was maybe the effect.
Yeah, we just figured it out and turned it off.
It was like a reverb.
Oh yeah.
But dude, song still sounded awesome, but I just had to cut Kris out of there.
Oh, I assumed his vocals were always cut.
Sometimes.
No way, man.
What do we do? Play more? Or
Yeah, give us another song because
We're ready for another one.
We are
actually.
ready for another one right away because I was gonna say it into the mic, but I knew it was gonna throw off the whole thing if I would have.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I think I could have talked and you guys can still hear me like what's going
I think
on.
so, yeah. All right.
But awesome, man.
This will be our first song.
Dude, thanks though. Thanks guys for coming and everything. I miss you fellas, jamming in the
we missed
band.
him too, yeah.
Mang and Neads show.
Being outside is weird now.
Sonic Garden Radio.
All
What
right.
do you call this one, Nate?
This song, what are we doing now? We're going to do Riding for a Fall.
Well, here you go, folks.
Someday, somebody will make you cry. Then you're gonna have teardrops in your eyes. Oh no. So go ahead and have your fun, girl. Don't ya know I'm still in love with you, girl? Go ahead and have yourself a ball. You're riding for a fall. Someday, somebody will break your arm. Then you're gonna wish that we had never part. So go ahead and have your fun, girl. Don't ya know I'm still in love with you, girl? Go ahead and have yourself a ball. You're riding for a fall. You're riding for a fall. Go ahead and have your fun, girl. Don't you know I'm still in love with you, girl? Go ahead and have yourself a ball. You're riding for a fall. You're riding for a fall.
All right, guys.
Megan Needs Show.
Ma'ng and Neads Show. This is Sonic Gardens Radio. This is our 49th day straight running this show. And today we have as our guest Nate Collins and Mr. Christopher himself in the house. So what's happening, guys? So what else is new? How's it been? How's it been? I haven't really, we keep on the group chat, keep talking, but
Oh, isn't that romantic?
But that's about it. Like haven't seen you guys in a month. It's been like a month and a half, going on 2 months, man.
True.
It's crazy.
Quarantine, yeah. Don't get out much.
No.
Yeah, it's been a long time, Bob. Can't even get together.
Have you? So Nate, you just been working from home?
Yeah. No, I've had to go into the office. I do have to go in.
Like sometime, or
Yeah, I'm still supposed to, but I do most of my work from home, and then I just commute in to do a little bit of that.
Right.
If no one's there, I mean, it's really just one person there
Yeah.
anyway. So, and I have my own office, so I guess
Yeah. Obviously, that was never bad. It just was always that like more of like when everybody's
the Monday
in there.
mornings when there's
Yeah, the Mondays. Yeah.
I think they've kind of gone away from that. They're meeting in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah,
But
they do.
Weather's oh, they do.
Fuck. It's like a fucking... I pull in here a little later or on a Monday, and it's like, holy shit.
But you're essential.
Me? I just come.
Well, we're like, that's the way we see it. Is like nobody else is here.
Right.
It's been a month and a half. Yeah, it's like.
Right. All those
Other than I
places
see
that were
Karen
overpacked.
just came on in though, huh?
All those places that were overpacked.
Yeah, they're-
underpacked because
Dude.
because everybody is home.
These people, I mean, there's not a fucking fence up out there, and the only fence is between my building and that building over there, and they want to walk through the one that has the fence, I guess, with their dog. And they see my dog out there, which my dog's hooked up to the car,
Wow,
And-
that's how you get him to work.
and then yeah.
Does he pull your car? Or does your car pull him?
Yeah, both. But they wanted to walk through here instead of go over by like the trash dumpster thing and go that way to the river. They want to walk through this way for some reason. So yeah, I had to go out there and hold the dog.
Maybe they like your dog.
I don't know. I'm more worried about getting something.
Sued?
No. Sick.
Oh, from a dog?
No, from the person that came over.
Oh, you gotta be more specific.
Well, she came in. Yeah, you missed it. You're around the corner. She popped her head into.
He doesn't travel around corners.
Well, after 49 days, I think we've learned that Neads don't want to talk to anybody either way. You know, he doesn't want to join again.
How long can you use that disease excuse for after this is over?
Oh, let me tell you what. I'm going to be able to use that for a while.
You got to wear a mask then, or I'm not going to buy your reasoning.
Right.
No, I don't shake hands. I'm not coming over.
Yeah. No shaky hand.
Yeah, that was the latest with that was that that Fauci had to reiterate that, you know, this isn't going to go away until there's a vaccine. And a vaccine.
I heard 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's like,
At least 2.
we've been
It'll peak
saying
in the winter and the fall, but it'll be 3 years. Yeah.
We've been saying since the beginning that it was, you know, the slow play where they knew already that they were going to be like shutting down, locking down everything,
Yeah.
and it's almost.
I think maybe local governments fought federal governments. You know, I don't want to do any
Well,
political stuff,
they're
but I feel
gonna,
like people were saying controversial things in politics and no one knows what to do.
Well, because the head of it all, doesn't want
not
to
afraid.
upset his base, man. And by him being real vague and saying, "Oh, it's the governor's their deal, whatever," all his Republican people will just go ahead and be a minion and do what he says, most of them. But the Dems, they'll fight right against him, because they obviously a lot of them shouldn't be opening up. You know what I mean? Like everything wouldn't be down if we were all open this whole time. I mean, it's just like common sense.
Well, the law, it's the whole idea. Like the more free we think we are, we're the ones spreading it. We become the hotbed.
Right.
Nobody wants to listen. Super disinformation, and all of a
and
sudden
everyone's
it's
like, nothing's
really?
happening. And it's
Like,
like, well, that's good because we're quarantined. That means we're doing
Right,
it.
exactly.
And then they're
man.
like, "Fuck that! We're being lied to. Get out there!" And then all of a sudden the numbers we're already seeing it. There's been no slow, and the numbers are just going to continue. And I
Right.
think
Where the
we're
peak
going to
was,
hit the.
They said we're just sitting
Yeah.
at that peak now. We're not like going
Well,
down like they thought we
We're
would.
gonna
Right.
know more in a couple weeks about like
we've been-
Texas and Georgia because they're
Right.
opened up. So we're gonna know how well they think they've got it taken care of and all that here in a few
we
weeks.
saw
for
that
sure.
neither place, none
don't
of these
know.
places meet the criteria for reopening. But yeah, we'll see.
I
It's
mean,
a
I don't
weird
know.
thing.
Does temperature actually have something effect on it?
It
Because if
does
they say it's
if
less
you got
bad in
that.
summers, then maybe Texas. I'm not saying they won't.
Oh,
get hit,
you're
but-
saying like the temp, but why
don't
was
know.
it in some of these hotbed
Oh,
areas
no, I agree.
already?
I agree. That could just be misinformation I've heard. Maybe a temperature has nothing to freaking do with it at all. And most diseases I think, thrive in like warm.
Well,
wet
like the flu
temperatures,
doesn't
right?
obviously, but like other shit does, like malaria does, right? And like
Yeah,
AIDS
jungles
and things
stuff.
like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I don't know, but
Fuck, AIDS don't have a season.
well, AIDS only lives for like 5 seconds when exposed to oxygen, though.
Right.
This is that's the difference between that and this, I guess. I mean, or one of them, I mean, I don't know though. For all I know, everything I've been told is a lie. So
Right. Yeah. It's hard to tell
It's really hard to tell.
with a lot of it. So what do you think, Angelo? What do you got in there? You
Ding
got,
dong.
you got anything exciting in there?
No, I mean nothing.
Oh. All right.
Nothing exciting as far as I didn't really do any. I didn't get any like clips or anything. Nothing I could really think of. Although, like I said, I really don't mind playing that one, like daily on
What?
loop. That one,
Metallica?
Kellyanne. What's her name?
Kaylee.
Oh yeah.
Is that Kaylee?
Kellyanne Conway?
No, Kaylee, what's her last name, man? She's the new press secretary. Kaylee!
McCain.
Oh, the woman that said she wasn't gonna lie,
And then
promptly
first
lied.
thing she did is
Promptly.
fucking lie about Flynn. Kaylee.
So yeah, that's just that one that I'm always willing to play.
She looks like a liar. Whatever a liar looks like. She does. She's got that shit-eating grin.
And isn't that refreshing from
Yeah.
our last administration?
She's got that, like she's got peanut butter on her butt and the dog's licking it. She got that grin on her face, fucking just a smiling. lying to you. Well, I'm gonna tell you another lie.
Are you ready?
Hey,
Oh yeah.
Mang and Neads show. Hello.
Absolutely. This president will always put America first. He will always protect American citizens. We will not see diseases like the coronavirus come here. We will not see terrorism come here. And isn't that refreshing when contrasting it with the awful presidency of President Obama? Kaylee McEnany.
Why does everybody roll back to Obama?
I don't understand why people compare things to things.
There's a million different terrible presidents besides Obama that were
So that
way
was
worse than
before-
Obama.
So
The
she
option should
literally
never be the better of two evils. It's like, no, it shouldn't come down to that.
she had the
Don't compare.
balls though to say he will never, the coronavirus will not
I
come
mean,
here.
what did you expect, honestly, though? Did you expect a woman that got up there and just told the truth? Like,
Well, she didn't have to go so extreme.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
she did
like a
not.
president
She
can
dove
stop
right into
a
it.
virus. That is like God power. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not something a
And
man
it's like-
controls.
And she was okay with just saying, and isn't that refreshing?
I mean, well, what's unemployment at now? Fucking
Oh, shit.
34 million?
Yeah. So
Percent?
No,
Oh.
people.
no, it's got to be up
Right?
to like. Well, see, the whole thing with that PPP, Payment Protection Program.
PP?
I believe that
That's Ange's nickname.
I believe that the intentions were to get people off of unemployment.
Right, but that didn't. How'd that work?
It worked well for some places.
Wait, get them off unemployment by paying them?
Yeah.
by forcing
What's the
bit-
difference?
So
You'd think what's the
People,
difference?
people
Well, they-
are worried about unemployment numbers because of like.
yeah,
no
but
one's
they
working,
gave
like,
all
they're
that.
giving
They
out
gave a
money.
bunch of forgiveness loans to those businesses so they could pay their employees so they wouldn't have to be on unemployment.
Oh.
But then they turned around and gave it to all these fucking huge companies that
What's the difference?
that Ruth's Chris.
You know what I think the difference is that unemployment, the way this was when we
statistic
looked at
works
the
bad.
numbers, because they passed it so quickly, they
Yeah.
just said straight up everybody gets the same amount of money.
Right.
What's that's done is people on the $40 an hour spectrum are making still not as much as they were when they
Right.
were working, and then
Right.
people that were on the lower end are making twice as much
Right.
money on unemployment.
I
Well,
would hope
that's
they
good.
did some average. Of,
And so-
of, you know what I mean? I would hope. I hope they didn't just pick this number out of their air.
Yeah, well, they did, and that's why it was. It was like one just gets to the 100%, and for the low end people, it's twice as much. Which, man, right now though, like we've talked about, everything should have just been kaputs: rent, mortgages, car
Pause.
payments.
All paused. Not you have to
credit
owe
card
it in 6
payments.
months.
Yeah,
Pause.
Not continued interest. Pause. Pick it up in 3 months. Everything.
And then all these people that had to work would have been able to bank money and just go to work and make money and have it for putting in their time and risking themselves.
that would have helped. That would have helped everybody to give everybody a chance like
And
that.
it would been basically like a bonus. You know what I mean? If your rent was $1,000, instead of paying that every month, you would keep that. That would be your bonus basically.
And the true focus would just be
Yeah.
food and drugs, of course.
And drugs.
Which is what it always should be, though.
Food and drugs.
I mean, that's what it was back in the day.
Yeah,
FDA,
it's
food and drugs.
the essentials, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's good stuff, man.
Everything's a
Yeah,
fucking...
so we're not. We like you said, we've been keeping track of this since the numbers were, we were in 5th place or whatever, live saying.
Oh, we're in first.
Fifth
Oh,
place.
we're
number
killing
one.
it. We're killing it.
We're
America's
always number one. We do everything to the
We're gonna
extreme.
be, we're gonna be equivalent to our military, 26 times the next.
We'll be the next 25 combined.
Yeah.
Won't be as much as us.
And
We're
they'll be
already
going-
the top.
All right, I got a
6 or
hot
5. We're
topic.
we're
All right, go for
more
it.
Than the other one.
So, do you think that video was fake of your boy Kim Jong Il or whatever they call him? Kim
Was
Jong?
it a video or a photo?
They did a photo, but then they had a video of him
I didn't actually
with
see
like
it.
a date and stuff in it.
Is he heavy?
I mean,
I was thinking they swap him out.
he
and
come
they're
walk.
I
he-
would-
he-
Western world
I could see
can't
that. No,
tell the
honestly,
difference.
that would
Nah,
be
he
better.
come
That'd be
walking
more
out.
likely.
He come walking out, and he's got this fucked up walk. And I was sitting there with Curtis. I'm like, dude, he walks just like you, Kurt. Fucking, he got a hell of a walk to him. But no, I mean,
Do you think that
I think you could throw a green screen up, or you can, is what I
North
think.
Korea has the
Oh, yeah.
capabilities
Well,
to
we
make it
know.
convincing.
And who let it out was the state-owned or government-owned.
That's all there is there, though.
Yeah, that's who let it out.
And I mean, we would pick it apart. Our guys are good. We can spot that stuff. We can look into the,
Yeah.
the ones and zeros.
Well, our
They'd have
top
to be
guy
really
that can
good.
look at all that, Mr. Donald Trump, he sent out a positive tweet. Glad this. I don't know it exactly. I'm sure we could pull it up, but he was glad that.
He's our top computer expert.
Yes, he's glad that Kim is doing good. He did tweet. That motherfucker don't stop. He don't sleep. He don't sleep, man.
No.
He
Say what you
can't.
want about Kim
He
Jong-il.
can't because he's on all those Sudafeds.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I doubt that's the only thing he has.
Say what you want about Kim Jong, man, but that dude shot an 18 in 18 holes of golf. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
He shot 18 in 18 holes of golf.
18 holes in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was literally, I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't
He is
recorded,
amazing.
but he had
I mean, there's a lot of things that he can do that
Yeah.
people would be
He might be the
surprised.
best.
Yeah, because if you don't mark it down as one, you get shot in the fucking head. Are you kidding me? I got a one, right? No, it was a two. Ba-boom.
It didn't say anything about that in the record.
He's tremendous. He's great. Oh, wait, that's a different.
Yeah, that's a different Yum Jung Yu. So I guess his sister will have to wait before she takes over then, since he's still alive, they say.
Is her name Kim?
Yeah, it is.
I
Kim
think
Jong
that's their
Kim?
last name, and they just put it first.
I know.
Oh.
Kim Jong Kim?
Kim Jong Kim. Lil Kim. They call her Lil Kim.
Oh, look, Kim Jong Kim.
Yeah. All right.
She was the one from that movie.
Yeah.
Saw that. The little.
Yeah, I didn't catch it. You guys got another tune for us?
Yeah, I think we do.
All right.
Chris, what do we got?
You guys warmed up?
We might be.
Warmed up. Yeah, man. Dude, thank you again so much for coming in. It was awesome when I sent you that message. I wasn't sure,
Oh, hell
wasn't
yeah.
sure if you were, but I figured you were there jamming. You've been playing songs. You always got them ready. Tons of lyrics in your head.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about getting out too much. Well, I mean, obviously I don't go to crowded places, but
Yeah, that's kind of one of my things too, is that I've kind of lived a pretty secluded life for quite a
anyway.
while.
Yeah. That's not much. Yeah. I just try and stay 6 feet away if I have to go.
And really, that was like the most gathering would be when we come and jam, and
Yeah,
what there'd be
closest,
top would be 10 people here when we're having practice,
Yeah, it's a.
Unless it was those parties, which short-lived, man. I wish we had more parties
Well, we're gonna
before
have
the end of the world. It's gonna open up, and we're gonna again, but
No,
and we're
well,
gonna be
even if
ready.
it doesn't open up, if we know the world's ending, we're gonna.
Then
have
we
parties.
might
Oh
as
yeah,
well,
if
right.
the world's
I mean,
ending,
I'm-
we're gonna go riot and loot first. But
Doorknob, I don't care. at
we'll
that
go
point.
fucking loot first.
Well, duh, we got to get speakers, bro.
Yeah, we gotta get
Well,
everything.
then we're the band on the Titanic, and all we need then is we search for an FM transmitter and
Oh, we're gonna do pirate
some
radio?
generators, and we would pirate radio,
Pirate
and,
radio.
and just play music till the
We'll hijack everyone's signal too, so all they can listen to is us.
Dude, we got the awesome the
Couldn't
thing
you live
up
on
top.
a cruise ship? Couldn't you live on a giant boat forever? Would the disease ever get to you?
I guess
not
technically-
unless
You were
some-
20 miles offshore.
Well, no,
It's
you'd be
similar-
fine. You'd have to. One thing you would have to figure out. You would
Fresh
have to have
water.
tons of water,
Or
obviously,
desalination and a ton
Right.
of power to run it. Yeah.
and we would
yeah,
eat.
so get a navy ship that has a nuclear reactor power.
Yeah, we
for
would
30
eat.
years.
We would eat fish a lot, and crabs and shit like that. People.
If
Yeah,
it-
that's
if
where we
it
get
happened.
our. Actually, we could probably bring a bunch of cows with us, like live.
Oh, you're talking Noah's Ark.
Well, no. I'm just talking a couple things. I mean, I don't even eat cows, so I don't know why I said that, but
You'd eat cows when you were starving. Trust me. Yeah.
Well, yeah. If I'm starving, fuck, I'll eat people
You'll
if I'm
eat the
starving.
ship. You'll start to eat the wood.
Yeah. Fucking A. That's all there be. We'll run out of vegetables quick. Unless, well, we could probably get seaweed.
Get rid of all the vegans.
All right.
Chris.
All right.
What you got for us, Chris?
49 days.
All right, this
Nate
song
and
is
Chris.
called we're going to do Lost at Sea. Mine wasn't on. There we go. Hold on.
Check 1, 2. Hey, hey. Hey, hey.
I was going to say, okay, good. All right. This song is called Lost at Sea. You hear the guitar, right? Everything's good? I wish you were here, you would make it all so clear. I would love to spend my life with you. If you were next to me, I would be so goddamn happy. Nothing in this world compares to you. I am lost at sea, tidal waves won't let me be, but I could tread forever if you'll have me. Oh, my ship has sank to the ocean floor, and I don't need that boat no more. You can live together wherever we wash ashore. I am such a fool, thinking I'm worthy of you. I would always be a wallflower. If you give me a chance, I would ask you for this dance. I want to spend life with you. I am lost at sea, tidal waves won't let me be, but I could tread forever if you'll have me. Oh, my ship has sank to the ocean floor, but I don't need that boat no more. We can live together wherever we wash ashore. I am lost at sea, tidal waves won't let me be, but I could tread forever if you'll have me. Oh, my ship has sank to the ocean floor, but I don't need that boat no more. We can live together wherever we wash ashore.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Mang and Neads Show live on Sonic Gardens Radio with our special guests today, Nate Collins and Kris Maiurano.
You gotta start practicing.
Yo, you back? Am I back?
Yeah.
I'm back. Back. Live and uncut. Hey, what's the dude from Michigan independent he's gonna run? He's entering the
Independent?
he's entering the presidential race.
He's going to go up against that woman?
Bernie? Biden? No. I wouldn't call Biden a woman. He's just...
Yeah, I wouldn't call Biden a woman either.
Oh, I thought you said against the Michigan governor.
No. He's from Michigan.
Well, a lot of people are from Michigan. You gotta be more specific.
Yeah, I forget his name.
There's literally hundreds.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is he gonna run on a?
He's gonna go independent.
Which is on a leftist
Bullshit.
platform.
Yeah, he was a Republican, but he's not anymore.
So it's gonna be another centrist besides Biden.
Well,
Split the vote. Trump wins.
Yeah, I think that's the plan.
Every angle.
That's
They
their
said,
plan.
Yo, Michigan dude.
But
But he's anti-Trump. Obviously.
I don't know if he's anti-Trump. He just probably wants to be the president, or he's helping Trump out.
That's what I was thinking.
Splitting the
Oh,
Democratic
yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
I think that's already done. I think the Democratic Party did a pretty good job of that already.
Nah, they
Yeah,
can.
no shit.
They're gonna beat him.
Oh,
Josh has been pretty firm that no matter what, Biden's gonna beat him.
I think he probably will, but I ain't voting for him.
Well, you don't have to, but
I'll vote Democratic down the line, but not that. I just won't vote.
right.
He thinks it all comes down to that
This all
he's
right.
gonna get the black vote.
The African American vote, and no one's gonna believe anything about the polls this time. Like last time, it was all Hillary's gonna blow him out. Hillary's gonna blow him out. Hillary's gonna blow him out. Well, if you hear that, well, maybe not you, but if somebody hears that and they're like, and they weren't gonna go, they weren't really, didn't really want to go vote, then you're like, well, if she's gonna win anyways, I don't need to go vote.
Yeah. Guess.
I mean, the polls had her killing him. You know what I mean? Like,
Not literally.
well,
Careful.
yeah, not literally. She's hiding out for the other ones.
My biggest question
I
is,
know exactly what you mean, though. I don't know.
how come she's not in jail?
Well, because
That's what I want to know.
You got to have proof, dude.
You got the whole Department of Justice and the
People get away with shit all
FBI and the
time.
CIA on your side. You can tell them what to do. I guess he doesn't have the That's why he got mad at the FBI and the CIA.
I don't think they have proof. I don't think any of them even have proof that could put her away. If they did have some kind of thing, you know what I mean? If they have something,
Obviously. I mean, yeah.
yeah, they don't have enough proof.
You don't need proof, you know?
Well, I mean, you do. You don't need proof to get arrested or indicted.
No, but I think judges are the only things in this country that are, like, unbiased still. I don't think any judges follow anything anyone says. They go by the law. So once it gets in front of a judge, they'll just throw it out usually.
Right.
I like to think that anyway. I don't know. Maybe that's not true.
So
You got your reverb on still.
your boy is
Sounds crisp.
Justin
Sweet.
Amash, I guess, from Michigan.
Oh, that's his name?
Yeah, I've heard of that name.
AMASH.
Heard of that name. Did he run before or something?
I don't know. He
And
looks like he needs. He
Maybe
needs.
I heard of it from this.
Yeah, he needs to shave his eyebrows.
Off?
Well, I
That would
mean,
get him a lot of votes.
I mean, not off.
He'd be like that.
He just maybe he hasn't been able to get to a barber.
You see this? Yeah. My hair's almost as long as Chris's.
Yeah, my hair's growing, man. My hair's growing like
Yeah,
5-6
it grows
inches
weird.
in the back. It don't grow on the top. Yeah, it doesn't. Get the water.
Yo, I'm going to hook up I'm sending a message to Warner. I told him to try out that, we'll try that Facebook thing, and I'll be able to pull up his
Yeah,
thing.
tell him
and
to
then
get in
when
the
he talks
tub
to
with
us.
his computer plugged in. Yeah. So yeah, we got a third.
We got a third what?
The Michigan guy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't
I'm
mean
sure
to,
he's
I
a
didn't
good
mean to cut
temper.
off your conversation. I was just...
Well, I figure you had some input on the.
I want to say this late in
Well-
it, he's not going to make an impact. But this is like the normal time to get in it, isn't it? Like,
Well, it used
yeah,
to be.
technically,
I mean,
for the
yeah,
independents,
which is what I still consider. Like, we're getting
The Green
it's going
Party.
Like 2 years ahead of time now, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah,
This
they
is
used.
when-
Outrageous.
Yes, it is outrageous. It's fucking donkey crazy
Might as well just
shit.
start your campaign or just continue your campaign after you win.
But if you fuck around like Bloomberg did, then you just get in there, spend a bunch of money, and then get out. Which I mean, I guess if you have billions, you just want to throw it around.
Well,
But
he only spent a couple $100 million, right?
billion. He spent.
That's not. He'll make it back.
Oh yeah, fucking A, he will.
He's starting a task force, right? To like.
Dude, Nate, he makes $183 million a day.
I know.
He's gonna make it. Yeah, he's gonna make it bad.
Oh yeah.
that mother.
Yeah, definitely.
That motherfucker is. He did something right. He didn't even start his like big deal until he was like in his 40s, I think, right? Like,
Plenty of people haven't, man.
Yeah.
Like, what is it, McDonald's or KFC? One of the starters didn't do it until he was like 45
right.
or something crazy.
Right.
They were like broke until then.
Yeah. They were living life, getting
Never too
fucked
late.
up, doing benders.
Well, that's how you get your brain.
Yeah.
better.
Get it ready. Get ideas.
Exactly.
Fucking A, get fucked up.
Oh, what about a restaurant where there's a window and I just hand you the
Yeah.
food? That way, if there's ever a major disease,
Right.
we can remain open
All the while.
with just a tiny glass protector. It does nothing.
So, what do you think, Angelo? You got any, you don't have any,
I was just gearing up that.
we're gearing up.
Yeah, I was just gearing up. Warner, he did say he was there, so he was just saying, "Hey, man, I'll call you guys up when you want me to talk to you."
It looks like the dude's eating my head. Or gonna
Yeah,
eat.
look at that, Chris.
He's eating me.
Dude, better. That's classic. That's better than the old days. The
Chris,
dude's in.
Chris is getting better, man. With the
So
old
what else has changed? Obviously,
your undies.
we had the awful
Not in Ohio,
news
baby.
that lost your brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
Awful, man. Greatest guy, Chris.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, what else changes, though, when you're stuck in your house?
Yeah.
You beat off more.
Like I said,
don't know.
where we live, where we don't have, there's not like a lot of options for fun stuff to do, obviously.
Oh,
where we live, so we've kind of like grown accustomed to the eating at home, trying not to go out as much, staying home, all those things. The bars were always like pretty.
I mean, I think we
scarce
did
the
pretty
last few
good though,
years.
growing up and stuff, having fun for you know what I mean?
Considering, yeah.
Not being in a huge town. We made a good go at it.
Yeah. No, we did. It's just I think that.
But we're older now.
I also think that gradually, like we're always like, oh, where did time go? 10 years went by like that. But while that's all been happening, I think like Norwich and Shenango County has just been kind of like going down as far as
Time?
I don't know.
Yeah, because
they
a
Just
lot
like-
of people don't. They're stuck, man. You know what I mean? They don't go to the times that we're in and try to. And then they wait to the end. Now they want some big grant. They want to change their town up and do beautiful things to it, but might be a little late for that.
Yeah, they should have let that highway come through.
They should have let 80 come through at least back in the day.
It's all
They shoulda
happening
let-
naturally anyway now, isn't it?
They should have let Oneonta College, right? The
Yeah.
one or whatever that one was. That
Well, they were the big. I think the big Morrisville, but the 80 wanted to come through here. It's not a highway or anything, but still, it's a good. It connects to a couple.
oh yeah, 80.
We don't need any of that here.
Is
Well-
that why 80 ends up cutting over to?
But we could have used it though with all these trucks and shit with Chobani and shit, man. Like we could definitely use a fucking easy access highway.
There's a river and a train track.
That's what they said in the day.
Yeah,
There you
that's why one of the reasons that craft plant was there, I think, because the river was right there, and the train.
Easy to dump out the chemicals.
Yeah, and the train tracks were there.
They probably built those train tracks like through there specifically.
Hell yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
But it's also not a unique place where it's just in the middle of nowhere.
No, it was 'cause
Land,
No, well, the canal.
Yeah.
The canal went through here. That's
Yeah,
why this
fucking
place
A,
was,
it
like,
did.
and then I think they built the train tracks when the canal was kind of fading out.
Well, they had the old train tracks came through here too, the B&O or B&W.
really?
Yeah, the one where the roundhouse was at the high school and basically right here, Nate. They came right through here. Those other ones came right through here.
Huh.
On the right of me here. Right where that fence used to be that you guys tore down right over here. Like literally fucking 20 yards away from here. This was Borden, Ange says. This was the creamery.
Yeah. This used to be Borden Creamery.
Boredom.
All right, what do you got for us, Chris?
Warner.
Is it working? What's going on?
Kris Warner.
Working?
It's working, just video, not yet.
Oh.
Hey, so calling
Mang and
in.
Neads show.
Ryan Warner.
You're live.
Giving us a call on the video chat. His camera is off. That's okay, you know.
I don't know how to do it.
Put your pants on. Definitely put your pants on.
Don't. Put them
a
over your
shirt.
head.
Just a shirt and give us a chest up.
It's showing is my camera blocked? I don't understand.
Do you have him hooked
It's
in?
got a black box.
Yeah, hit the. Can you see me?
Oh.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry.
Hey, what's up? All right, I'm gonna pull you in here too. Put you in the corner.
Are you gonna put him through us?
So
To us?
hey, Ryan, we got Nate's here, Chris is here,
Hey.
Yeah, man. I've been,
and Josh.
Is he hooked in so
went
we can hear him or
downstairs real
no?
Quick. But yeah, it's good, man.
Ooh, old sheepdog millionaire. There he is.
Tough talk. Political, man. It's tough climate.
Yeah. It's cool, nice. I see all your paints behind you. Looking
Oh
good.
boy,
man.
is he doing a close up again?
Yeah, this is
Is he
So
doing a
am I.
close up?
Gotta make sure I check my.
Yeah, I don't have your picture up there yet, but yeah.
Oh,
All right, I'm good.
is he in front of the cork board?
You
No,
got
he's
enough
in front.
paint to last you through quarantine?
Holy
Just-
shit, he's got some paint.
Okay, good.
Oh boy.
Just in case I don't look at my. I can do my
Oh
job
shit.
thing.
No, I just fucked up big time.
Oh no.
Well, no, I tried to call you on the computer, but I actually, and then when you called, it was on my phone, so I'm stupidly like looking for trying to get your access, but the phone is not connected.
Oh.
So it's really just the way it always was, except for now you can see me and I can see you.
Oh, that's romantic.
Right.
So you know,
Yeah.
it's something.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so I can't hear? Will I have to play the podcast on my own on a separate device?
Wait, can you hear Josh right now?
You can't hear me, Warner?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
he couldn't. I had to turn you up in the room. Yeah.
So you can
Not
just
see me?
no,
He can't see you.
but he can hold you can he can hold you up to his camera right in front of him, and then we can see.
Will this be
And
microphone?
we can- Why don't you call his computer back?
Wait, I'm trying. There we go. I
6
just
feet.
connected it.
I heard
All
this
right.
is
All right, now
gonna
I
jump
got
to
you, bud.
digital form.
There we go.
All right, so now the question is,
Our crack.
can you hear me right now? You can hear me,
fucking Chris?
but I am not hearing you.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, I'm not hearing him.
Hey, Chris.
Yo.
Did you ever get that Jim's wife? Wow. Did you? No. You didn't get her?
No.
I don't. That might be her name. Fran might be her name.
Fran Drescher, the actress?
No.
Who?
Jim Baker's wife, the guy that sells the buckets. He sells buckets of like non-perishable food, 6-month buckets and year supply buckets.
Oh, cool. Probably
Oh.
getting a lot of business now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what we were talking about at the beginning, or like when we
Honeyman.
started doing this.
You got to get bees. And
What was that?
Sorry, guys.
Sound like we're getting attacked.
Oh, very sorry.
all the
Uh,
killer hornets.
I'm trying to figure out how to link him.
Oh, did
in
you
here.
see that, Nate?
Yeah, the killer. It's like everything's hitting, man. I
Yeah.
guarantee Yellowstone's going.
Oh,
off
yeah,
within
that
10
was-
years.
That's right.
Did you see the Killer Hornets?
That's right, dude. We talked about that when I brought up remember I brought up Yellowstone, Josh. That was like a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting into hurricane season now. Like,
Oh,
down
did you
south.
see that,
How do you
Nate?
evacuate a quarantine state?
Yeah, but did you see how like we're supposed to have one of the biggest hurricane seasons
Oh my God,
fucking in
no.
forever?
No, I didn't see it. I'm not surprised. I don't think it's gonna get better.
Warner, what in the fuck are you doing?
What?
Hey, how are we doing now? Can you hear me?
I don't know.
Hey, how are we doing now? Can you hear me?
I got
Me?
feedback.
Shit.
Sound like
Check. Testing.
a.
But how do you evacuate a quarantine state?
That's what I was wondering. Like,
that's gotta
you
be hard.
definitely
The
can't
logistics of that.
evacuate for a hurricane. Yeah, or tornadoes. Like when they had those tornadoes, you couldn't
have to, though.
Yeah, but when they had those tornadoes a couple weeks ago or a week ago, they couldn't go to those tornado shelters because of this.
Oh, right. Okay, I can
hear
see them
you.
not going to shelters, but you'd have to
Can you hear me?
evacuate the area.
I mean,
a hurricane's more deadly than the disease, no matter
I can hear you.
right.
Hurricane's going to kill 50% of the people it touches, man, or whatever.
Tornado don't do a bad job either,
Oh,
man.
no, I'm not saying
Fuck.
that. I'd say if it comes to that, the hurricane outweighs the disease.
Right.
You got to kind of ignore quarantine or whatever just to get the hell out of it.
Yeah, hurricane will fuck your whole world up too.
But yeah, you're right. Because don't they used to go to like Texas to those big stadiums and they put like, 10,000 people on cots on the floor. They can't do that
Yeah.
now.
Oh hell yeah, they did.
Huh. Wow, that could be.
Yeah, they did that for the when Houston flooded a few years ago, right?
Astrodome or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You're right.
I believe
They
it.
can't. There's no way they could do that now. You can't put. That would be like a petri dish.
Oh, let me tell you what. You're talking about Texas though, and they just opened back up, and they're the same ones. Their lieutenant governor said that he'd sacrifice either himself or his parents.
Oh, basically lives for money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez, I remember that. Right. Cuomo responded with the whole nobody's life is worth or whatever. You can't put a value on life.
Yeah. Cuomo does a good job.
No, I agree. Yeah, especially with that. That guy was. And then when Mitch McConnell tried to say something,
Oh my!
he talked about that was awesome.
Mitch McConnell's
We are the number
fucking
one giver.
chode,
You are the
man.
number 3 taker. It was awesome. He's like, we don't want your aid. We want our money back.
Yeah. Ah, shit.
Oh.
So, what you got going on in there, Angelo?
Oh, I got a loop back issue with that cable I plugged in.
Is Warner still
Oh
on?
yeah, man, he's in here. I should get him. So
I hear him.
I
Said
think
the same thing as Ange.
So that's you just repeating
Yeah. Oh, and I got it turned down, so it's not going through the main end. I'm gonna unplug it.
Alrighty.
And
So you're listening to the Mang and Neads show,
Yeah, that's right. No, that's what I was
Sonic Garden Radio. We got the great Kris in here. We've got Mr. Nate in here.
Mr. Nate.
You want to play us another song?
Is it time?
Yeah, it's time.
I don't know if we have another song.
Yeah, because it. Oh, you don't have it.
No, we have a.
All right.
Stop it.
Yeah, give us another one. Why Ange messes around in there. He doing the mess around.
Me, Chris? Yeah, dude, that'd be sweet.
yeah, guys. Like I said, we're just soothing.
We like hot jams.
We sure do.
Kris, you can give us a little hot. What do they call that? What did you play the other day? What's that? Sleep tunes or something? I like that. I watched that episode. That was good.
Yeah, imagine a few hours of that. Definitely could sleep to that.
People definitely could.
Yeah.
He does that water sound like it's. I like it.
It's like it's water.
Like,
It's almost like it's a recording.
yeah, like it's running water.
All right, guys, take it away.
All right, this song is called You and Me. We're going to do. That was Metallica. You and me, it's always been. How I feel about you, there's no end. You make me chase you around, all around. Then you need me, girl, when you fall down, down. When this dance is done, you and me are still the only one. Well, since our time begun, I'm still with you even when you're gone. When this dance is done, you and me are still the only one. Well, since our time begun, I'm still with you even when I started. You stop it. I want it knowing that you're walking away. I started. You stop it. I want it knowing that you're walking away. I started. You stop it. I want it knowing that you're walking away. I started. You stop it. Yeah, yeah. You and me, and we're back again. And introduce me to your new friends. You make me chase you around, all around. Then you need me, girl, when you fall down, down. When this dance is done, you and me are still the only one. Well, since our time begun, I'm still with you even when you're gone. When this dance is done, you and me are still the only one. Well, since our time begun, I'm still with you even when I started. You stop it. I want it knowing that you're walking away. I started. You stop it. I want it knowing that you're walking away. I started. You stop it. I want it knowing that you're walking away. I started. You stop it. Yeah.
All right, guys. Nice jam. There you go.
mAng and Neads
You
show.
and me. All right, I think I got Ryan here.
Oh,
Let's
boy.
See. Oh, he's walking away now, but let's
Is
see
he
if I
really?
can get a hello from him.
Ryan,
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me, sir? Oh, man. A little bit. Can you hear me? Oh, you can. All right. He's trying to talk back to me.
Oh, Warner?
Yeah. Here we go. Okay. There he is.
Okay, go.
There he is. I kind of hear Josh
Those
now.
are your boys, aren't they?
You mumbling?
Josh, you want to say something? See if he can hear you.
you want to say something?
I've been talking. It didn't sound like he.
I got that same loop issue.
I got that
Oh.
same loop issue.
Ooh.
Some bitch. Well, we
Well-
tried. Let's go old school. We'll just talk to you.
Oh, man. What do you have hooked up in there? Did you have it hooked up to your laptop?
Yeah.
And then it looped around. Was the volume up or?
It was like looping back every time I said something. It would just delay right back to me.
Oh.
So somehow it was.
Yeah, we heard that. We heard that. We done heard it.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Oh,
it was
boy.
something with the that. That's funny. Sorry, guys.
So
I got a few
is
different
Warner
buttons
there or what?
He's sort of here.
What do you?
No,
well,
it's like he's in the tablet, so he's not like physically there. It's
right,
like a video more thing.
right. But I mean, is he fucking gonna talk or?
He can't talk yet.
Oh,
My
He'd
bad.
love to.
oh, all right. Well,
Oh, is he doing like a vow of silence
he's.
for the disease or something?
Yeah, I think that's what he's doing.
I get that.
Right? You call somebody up and they're silent because
Yeah.
the disease.
Yeah, well, you can make like clicks and stuff.
Right, like Morse code. Like you're probably too young, but when we were younger and we could use the payphones and you call somebody up and you had like 12 or 13 seconds,
Yeah.
like, Mom, don't pick up, come get me in the park.
I don't remember that. How the hell did you guys defend yourself from dinosaurs?
We had Kris.
You with us, Warner?
Yeah, I remember payphones and not that fucking.
Yeah.
Right, but did you ever have to use one? I mean,
Oh no, they never worked when.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
Yes, I've had to fucking use.
Come on,
payphones.
Nate.
Come on, of course I have.
you're still in your 20s, aren't you?
Yeah.
25. Warner, what the fuck?
Hello. He said hello.
Oh, no, that's.
I don't know what else I can do.
No, it sounds like Warner.
Yeah.
Just to volume it.
We got a lot going on today,
Did he break his
folks.
vow of silence.
Oh, there we go.
Huh? We got the loop to loop. Whatever I say is playing in there and then going over the mic.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
not. Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, I hear it.
Can
This-
you hear us?
This is not a
I can
test.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Yes.
If you take those balls out of your mouth, Warner, we'd be able to hear you better.
Now I heard that.
What's going on? Welcome to the Sunday show, Warner.
Yeah, man, it's a good show.
Have you been listening to the great music? We have a couple guests.
Yep, I missed the last one because of the technical difficulties, but I heard the opener
Oh, we could
and
probably.
the other one, and they lost at sea.
Oh, we could probably get them to play it over again, like repeat.
I got it.
Ah, shit.
Oh man.
I definitely am getting
Feedback.
loop, just a loop. Yeah, feedback.
It only when I.
Right there.
No, it's probably because he's coming out of Warner's speaker, and then Warner's also.
Yeah, I was
talking,
wondering
so
that
it's
too.
coming
Does
in
Warner have his thing on? Is that what's coming back to us?
Because both the sound and his mic are on. His
Oh yeah,
phone.
we.
He would need to have the.
We've never
podcast
tried
on
it
the
with-
computer and then his mic in a different room like that.
Ryan, I'm just gonna call you on phone.
Sound and fury.
Yeah, like on radio shows, don't they always say, "Hey, you got to get away from your radio"?
Right. Oh yeah, they definitely do.
'Cause they hate that.
He usually just turns his down, but
Well, it's Warner.
right. Exactly. He's got a lot going on over there.
Yeah.
He had to make sure he was set up right in front of his paint and stuff,
What else?
so he looked good.
Oh, hey guys, you caught me painting.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't see you here. You called us, man.
So Kris, you got any? Oh, here we are. Here we are.
Oh, we should just prank call people.
I've been wanting to.
There
Hey
we
Warner.
There's a Seymour Butts in Albany.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
How about the rest of your friends?
Can you hear me?
There he is.
I can hear you. You sound wonderful today, Warner.
Thanks, man.
You sound.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, so that was the first time we tried to use Facebook Messenger to communicate, and
Yeah.
that's what happened. For some reason, it caused that continuous loop. So We'll
He would
try
have to
again.
have it coming
Something
out
else
of one
maybe
speaker.
later.
Yeah, it'd be complex.
That was worth a shot, man.
It's
Yeah.
always worth a shot, Warner. You know that.
Well, I had you up on the image. It was just the transfer from the
So could I call you on Messenger and talk to you on the phone?
Warner,
So your picture would be me
Yeah, and then just
on the phone with you.
microphones.
Sure.
you
I
can
just,
do whatever you want,
Yeah,
Warner.
do that and then just mute your microphone.
funny,
It
man.
should be no problem.
Yeah, then just mute the microphone. That would
You
make sense. Then you
mute
can
it.
see me, so you can look right at me in real time.
Yeah, you
All right.
muted
All
Yeah, we can
some-
work. We can work it out. We don't have to do it during the Nate and Chris hour.
Oh.
Nathan.
It seems like you got a good thing going, man.
Yeah, man, they've been killing it. It's awesome. I'm freaking happy to get them in here for sure.
Yeah, dude.
Like
I'm
I
pumped.
said.
Nice together.
I couldn't have got that screen recorded at a better time, man. I'm just taking these. I'm taking these like videos, and the light work on the lion and everything. The songs from yesterday too. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's just cool, man.
It's a cool.
Awesome.
It makes it a great atmosphere. Chill.
It really does. Look, we're still 6 feet too.
Yeah.
He spits when he sings though.
Yeah, he does.
Oh my god, it's bad.
Oh,
Oh, that's why
fucking
if you noticed, I tried to
missed.
kitty corner him a little more, so
Yeah.
he'd be spitting a
He's
little.
like that
Yeah,
Vic
you made
guy.
his mic aim that way. That's good.
He's like that Vic. What's that Vic guy's name?
Michael Vick.
No,
Dog Vick.
the dog catcher. Yeah.
What, Vic?
Vic. What's his name, man? Is Ange's guy? I don't know. He's a comedian, I guess. He does those.
Vince Vaughn.
No, he gets on there and does these rants about stupid shit.
Vic.
Vic, Ange, can you hear
Call
me?
me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I was just trying to do that, like I
Oh.
said,
Comedian
trying to
rancher
call that
Vic.
one thing.
I just missed you.
The Vic the guy that we played the other day.
Screw Italian names. They're impossible. to
I know,
pronounce.
right?
Spittin' Vic. Spittin' Vic. That's his
Yeah.
name.
Not yours, Morano.
He goes,
Yeah.
what ticks me off? You want to know what ticks me off? And he fucking just
Loogies.
loses it, dude. He's like spitting into the thing. Yeah.
Old Peckerwood
And
himself.
he's like turning red, and he's literally going to die right then. And he's just so pissed about shit. He records them daily.
Oh, there. Oh. Yeah, I
Vic
know who you're talking about.
Piatti.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
the guy on
comedian.
YouTube. Yeah, I know
and
who
he-
you're talking about.
he's usually in the fucking front seat of his car, Nate. He
Yeah,
fucking,
I know exactly who you're talking
he's
about.
not
I didn't
allowed-
know his name really,
He's
but-
not allowed to be funny in his house. He can
Right.
only be in the car.
I,
What
Not
the
coffee
fuck?
guy, is it?
I think he does tour and like do comedy
Who's
and
the guy who
stand
does
up.
that
Stand up.
coffee? I don't know. I'm making coffee.
I haven't seen that particular one
I
yet.
feel like it's an old Italian guy. I don't know. I think they're all the same.
So we
Well,
one
Reminds
of
me of Michael Rappaport or whatever that. Doesn't he just do
Now,
rants? in
that
his
guy
car
does
and stuff?
rant. That guy is actually funny.
Rappaport or which one?
Yes,
Yeah, I think
Rappaport.
so, too.
Oh, he goes off on everything.
Oh, he
He don't give a
something pisses
fuck.
him off. He doesn't care. He's
Yeah, he goes
20
off.
minutes, Yeah. New Yorker.
Yeah. You fucking stupid,
Yeah,
he goes.
He does.
You're really fucking stupid. So yeah, Warner, what do you got for us? You got any intelligent input?
I like how Rappaport calls him Dick Stain Donald Trump.
Yeah, old Dick Stain. Yeah.
Hey, Dick Stain. Hey, fucking Dick Stain Donald.
I love how he got run out of his own state.
Yeah.
Like he's like, you can't even show his face here.
Yeah.
Well, in the city anyway.
In the city.
Further you go away from the city, you probably get
Yeah,
raised
that-
higher and higher on their shoulders.
that should be all that was needed to know is when your home city can't stand you. That should have been
He
all
tried
that was
to warn the
needed
rest
to
of the
know.
country. Like,
Yeah.
no, listen to us. He's
But we don't take warnings. The United States does not take warnings from anything. They're
Right.
Like,
not
yeah,
even our
right.
own people. Yeah.
Not yeah, definitely not.
Like
Well, obviously,
even
yeah, Texas and Georgia. They're
and the whole like that whole thing, man. We've had so many opportunities to.
Fuck, even Pearl Harbor, they were telling them that something might be going on, and those fuckers are fucking.
yeah, they had intel ahead of time.
Yeah, they were fucking the pooch. Next thing you know, fucking. Whew, holy shit! All hell broke loose.
Yeah. So, but what do you think about the fact that the people that are storming the Capitol buildings with AK-47s and all that, and all the "I want my hair cut," those protesters?
Yeah.
Imagine them in mass hysteria mode. Like if they were like just one day, they were like, "Bam, this crazy virus is out. Get in your house,
No, I
lock the
know.
doors." Imagine those people
I hope
being
they all
told
get
that right, cold turkey.
It's terrible to say, but I hope they all get
It's almost like Trump knew. He's like, look, man, my supporters are a little unstable, and they're not going to do well, so let's slow play it.
Yeah, but I always wonder about all these people that tote all these guns and everything, and they go like, have they ever been in a fucking firefight? Like, do they really? You know what I mean? Like, when it comes down to it?
No, but you should see them shoot deer with their AK-47.
Yeah.
The deer barely have a fighting chance.
Right, but they still get away.
They shred them.
Fucking A.
That's right. Yeah, if you want to prove your mettle as a hunter, you got to hunt something that can hunt you back,
Right,
like a man.
right. Like another
bear.
human. We drop these
Or a bear with a gun.
or a
something.
lion.
Yeah, a bear
We
with a
drop
gun.
these motherfuckers off in the fucking.
Yeah. Oh, you hear about? Yeah, I love that. Well, a bunch of poachers got murdered by lions.
Right.
It was awesome, like a whole
Right.
pack of them.
That's what
were
they should
lion
do. They should
poachers,
get
too,
they
and
should
they'd
get an
snuck up on them at
island
night.
that no one lives on really, and they should put a bunch of fucking predator animals on there, and then bring humans over there and let them try their go.
That's
at
kind of
it.
like what Ryan was talking about with the rat wars and how the mice are actually, or the rats, sorry.
Yeah,
they're
come
not
on, here we go
mice.
again. Nate, tell this guy the difference between a rat and a mouse.
Rats.
Holy shit!
Mice wars,
So we were talking about
mice battles.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine they're entirely different. like,
you did though hear about the rat wars in New York?
rat wars.
Yeah, like they're
Oh,
the
like they have
food.
turf and stuff.
Well,
Oh.
now that the food is all gone, all the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
restaurants, so the population is like 1-to-1. So 15 million people in
Yeah.
New York. There's like 15 million rats,
if not more.
and they're getting really like desperate. So they're
Cannibalism.
They're
dude.
turning to cannibalism, but also, like Ryan was saying, that they're smart enough to like take a stick and
they
set
are.
off a trap without any like
They are very intelligent.
without any like
Well,
they
to
don't
a
even
point.
they don't even like jump when the thing goes off. They're that know exactly what's gonna happen, or even worse, they're like sending in
I
the
mean-
or they
weaker.
just accept their death.
Yeah,
I
They're
mean-
sending
That's
in
the
the
one.
weaker, stupid rats.
I mean, there's only so many ratatouilles.
how smart
so-
is that? A rat sniffs around and he's like, "Hey, buddy, what's this smell like? I think I smell something over here. What do you think? You smell anything?"
Go
The other one's
ahead.
like, "Oh, holy shit! It's fucking snap."
Yeah. There goes his neck.
It's because nature's
Yeah.
bouncing back.
And then he survives, man. Darwinism or whatever that is. You know,
Nature's
he
bouncing
survives
back, but
one
rats
more
aren't
round.
gonna.
Yep.
Yeah, the rats are gonna
Because
take
they're
over.
reliant on us.
Yeah,
Right.
but then,
You heard about monkeys in Asia? They're just doing the same thing. Like the ones in the cities are
Ooh,
starving,
man.
and they can open doors.
And
so
they're
people
going
will wake
right-
up and
yeah.
they'll open their door and freaking empty their cabinets and stuff. The
Or they
monkeys
got
in their
assaulted.
house. Yeah, monkeys are mean, dude. They
Yeah.
can bite them. Ooh, yeah, they're
They can
nasty.
do everything.
And they're and they're very smart and opposable thumbs
Fuck.
and all that. So
They can drive. They can shoot a gun. Like you ever
I
seen?
mean, yeah.
You ever seen
Yeah,
those
pound for pound,
videos?
they're like 50 times stronger than we are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, apes and stuff. Oh god, yeah. You wake up and there's one, yeah, right in your kitchen.
Yep. Smoking a cigarette, going, "You're next, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Your fucking
Your
buddy's
fridge is
laying
just
there
open
dead.
and empty. Yeah.
Yeah. You're next."
Arms just ripped off of his body.
Yeah, I saw something that talked about orangutans and baboons. They said baboons are the most like aggressive ape.
They're terrible.
And then they did the like the pressure, like how much pressure it takes to crush a skull. Like I think 80 pounds can crush a human skull, or
Oh.
things like that. And like your joints come out at 40 pounds, and an orangutan has like it could pull like
1,080
300 pounds.
Yeah,
with
it's
one
crazy.
arm. So if it wanted to, it could just like, I'll pull your shoulder off.
And its arm span is so big, it can just
Right.
grab you. And
Oh, rip your arm out.
Your
of
grip
fucking
is
socket.
insane.
You should see those things have territorial wars.
Right.
Like different tribes will meet and they'll fight, and it'll be like a war. But they do brutal things to like the women, the children, the old men and stuff. They'll tear them to pieces and leave them there to die.
You've been torn to pieces.
Scientists have announced that a group of monkeys have entered the Stone Age. That was not exactly
Oh my god,
like
if they
brand
pass
new,
us,
but that was like
they're going forward, we're going backward.
showing how
Yeah, we are.
they're starting to use tools. A whole species of them.
Hey man, if this virus gets worse, the digital age might end, and we might actually go back an
Right.
era. For the first time ever, we'll go back to
We
the
would have to rediscover
industrial age.
tools.
Yeah,
Right.
recreate those industrial steam-powered tool shits we had. And
Well, that always comes down to the big question that if we were able to rebuild everything again from scratch, would we do it the same way?
No.
We would,
Obviously
though.
not.
We would, though.
I just think
we don't have any say over that, just like we didn't in the first time.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is that now that, like,
We
you
should
know,
try
solar
not to.
technology and the wind and these different means of
Oh, okay, I see.
like
Yeah,
power,
it'd be
easiest.
different.
like we just would say, oh, we have to pull that out of the ground. No, we're not going to do that. We're
Yeah,
going
but
to
the
do
people in
this.
Texas are going to go, yeah, we could build panels in 3 months, or I could just dig a hole in my backyard and burn all this oil
Yeah.
right now.
Well, if they're alive still, they're doing.
Well, fingers crossed.
they're
but
doing
there's a
an
lot of them, dude.
They're doing an experiment for us out there in Texas and in Georgia.
I honestly don't understand how it's not there yet. Like, there's no way we could have contained the virus so effectively that it's like only in New York. Bad. You know,
Right, but
only
we
rampant.
locked down soon enough. But so you know what I mean. So there is cases in these states. They just like we've been locked down, so they haven't
Okay.
morphed out like it did in New York City when it was already too late to lock down.
But even after they locked down New York City, but
Oh,
it was
it's
just
still
it was already
happened.
past in the point of like when you
Right.
can quarantine it. Okay. Yeah.
But and then
I'm
you
just
also
surprised.
got so many people going to the hospital down there and stuff. You know what I mean? Like a lot of workers, even if you're not like all kinds of people at the hospitals getting sick and stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, it's the
before they
essential.
know
At
it,
this point, it's the essential workers. That
yeah.
are, and it's not just essential workers that are working with like 20 other people. It's the thing that we can't, like, personally, I can't really fathom other than I remember like doing telecom work in some of the buildings where literally, you know, a whole thousands of cubicles on one
Yeah.
floor, you know what I mean? And everybody's using the same entry, everybody's using the same elevator.
Water cooler.
Yeah, and how
Yeah.
many of these
doorknobs.
people that go to work that don't believe in it still, you know what I mean? That don't wash their hands as much or not as clean as some of these other people that could be asymptomatic that get it and are passing it around because they don't believe in it or they don't think it's going to get them.
Right. Someone somewhere has it and they're asymptomatic and they're just spreading it like crazy because they're not,
Right, because they
obeying
don't
the rules,
believe it.
yeah.
Like they're one of these people like, fuck that, I'm not wearing a mask. It's my body. I could do what I want. I've seen 4 of those posts today.
Those have got to be the best because at this point they are posting all the signs that people put up about abortion, that people put up about protesting, all these things, and it's like they're like, ha ha, we can do this too because you said that you could do it, but then they were arguing against that. So when it comes back the other way,
right,
where are we gonna be again? You know?
right.
The irony is lost on them. Like, they don't understand why it's ironic. They think it's funny because they're like, ha ha, look, I said what you said, only I said it about what I'm doing, but I don't want the same thing as you, so it's different, but it's funny because I said what you
It's a
said.
playground
You know what I
argument.
mean?
It's a
It's like,
playground argument.
Right.
No,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't even get it.
So yeah, I got the shit, man, latest numbers
Oh,
just to keep the tally going.
here he goes. The old doom and gloom.
3,500,000
What's about?
3,558,893 worldwide, 247,973 deaths.
How many people died of AIDS last year?
And
Fuck.
1,150,650 people have recovered worldwide. There are still actively 2,160,270 cases. 98% of them considered mild, and 2%, 50,000, serious or critical.
Yeah, I saw like
That was dramatic.
this morning
It
about
was, wasn't it? And the music too. That was extra.
I saw about like the European countries and like Japan and stuff like that about how they there's no way like any of these like that basically the US is crazy to start opening up like full-fledged like
Germany
even some of
canceled
these-
Oktoberfest.
Oh, you know
Yeah.
what though? I was just gonna say
Oktoberfest
Germany.
already.
Germany is yesterday. They only had 900 cases where they were running in the high tally for a while, and then today they're down to they're like 600, so maybe about the
They
same.
brought Hitler back. He locked
So in
everybody
other
up.
words, it appears that Germany
Yes.
might be curbing it, like truly. France is also down considerably.
And they're doing way more than we are, though.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing,
UK passed France, Germany as number 4 behind Italy, and they're not far behind, man. That's crazy because I haven't been looking at that number.
You know what's really crazy? This hasn't hit any like third world countries, has it? Majorly?
Well, because they can't report probably. Or
You think that? No, I honestly don't know. That might be the
Yeah,
case. I
testing,
just don't know.
reporting.
Like
Testing and
African
reporting.
countries get ravaged by diseases.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
haven't
and
heard
I'm
anything about those yet.
right.
Or do we just not care because it's hitting us too? We
Well,
gotta take care of us
Right,
first.
so nobody's thinking about that.
The people that have no defenses
South
whatsoever, no
Africa-
hospitals.
South Africa only has 6,783 cases total. They've had 131 deaths.
And that's mostly like English and stuff there, right? Like that's basically a bunch of
South
whites
African.
run that, right? South Africa.
Well, it's mixed. It's the South Africans, and then it's the
Yeah, they
farmers who
kinda-
are all white, like rich white imperialist colonist people.
right. Which came from England, most of them, right?
Yeah. They kick them out every few years, and then they realize their economy can't sustain itself, so they invite them back. And then they work on the farms, and they get angry, and then they kick them out again. Seriously,
Man.
it's happened like 4 times.
Right.
Russia's climbing too. That was one that
I was surprised about. They were so low.
Yeah, and we were just saying, hey, but they are still sitting at a 9. Their death is only 9 per 1 million. But again, I'm wondering what their
They just sent
they're
us a
like
bunch
curve.
of shit, too.
Did they just when did they start? Yeah, they didn't start even climbing until
I think that's why he
April
sent us all
7th.
that aid, didn't he? Putin
April 7th.
sent Trump a
Oh,
bunch
they're
of stuff.
way early on their curve, dude. They're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
have a shit ton of cases.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he sent all that stuff to Trump, and then on the agreement that when it hit Russia bad, the U.S. would help them also. or
Right, but we're
something
gonna
like
be
that.
so
Well, then
fucked.
We're
that-
still going to be fucked. Yeah.
Yeah, that
And then
is-
he's going to see what kind of person Trump is.
Yeah, Trump will be like, "Suck it,
Suck it, buddy.
and then he's
fucking
gonna,
A."
and then he's gonna pull out the real fucking stuff of him peeing with the
Yeah. Oh, he releases the pee-pee tape on YouTube.
Oh,
pee tape.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so their deaths, they did drop the deaths, like to where they're, I mean, their numbers are still extremely small as far as deaths.
This is South Africa?
No, this is Russia, and
Oh,
they're they've only had
from
one.
Russia with
They've
love.
only had 2 days over 100 cases. 100 deaths, sorry.
Yeah.
That's good.
But they just hit 9,000. Yesterday was 8, 7, and then it was like 6, every day since. And they didn't even have their first case until May 25th. And
I imagine it's spreading from Europe, and that's a big country, so it's probably going to hit Moscow.
yeah,
Oh,
It's
yeah.
starting to hit Moscow now, and then it'll hit like St. Petersburg and
Right.
Stalingrad and all those other eastern cities.
April 7th was when they had over 1,000 cases in one day.
Yeah, as soon as that hits Moscow, whew. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe cold kills it too.
Crazy. And what about Georgia? That's always our good friend, Georgians.
The Georgians.
We got our friend Matt Davis
That
is down
country?
there. Kelly Jackson.
Oh, the state.
Yep, the state of
Let me meet
Georgia.
The country.
No, I'm moving to the state because they're the ones that have been open full. Well, not full,
Well,
but
they're-
pretty full
Yeah.
since. So they had 284 cases today. They have a total of 28,616.
Man, their governor is a fucking. He's either a terrible
Has it
liar.
gone up since they lifted the restrictions?
So what did I just said?
I mean, up different at a different rate.
So they're tallying.
Yeah,
they're tallying
accelerating.
284 today. Yesterday, so that's like they're gonna have more, but good numbers. Yesterday's was 836. So shit. My other part about this is like the whole reporting.
So wait, there's their
Like-
800 and something. Like at the peak, what was New York City at the peak? Like 2,000 a day or something, or 4,000 a
I
day?
gotta get over into that.
No,
You heard one of the girls that was leading protests against the quarantine.
got it.
Yeah. And she released all these videos crying after the hospital because she's
If it's
like,
that
they
big,
jammed
if
this
it's
thing
that
like
large
3 inches
blonde
up my
woman,
nose.
And she couldn't get a. Oh well, I saw one where a lady was at one of them, and then she was begging for a test, and she couldn't get a test, and she was all.
And then she was protesting about that, probably.
Oh, the best thing is when you see the protesters and they have masks and gloves on.
Yes.
There is no disease. It's like, what the fuck are you wearing a mask for then,
Right.
dude? If you're so goddamn sure you're safe.
Right. What the fuck?
But in case there is. It's like, yeah, that's why we're all doing it. In case.
Dude, in the deal with some of them protests, you know damn well none of them fucking ever go get their hair cut or any of that shit that they're just out there fucking because they feel like
They want to go out to a dive bar again.
Yeah, they're supporting a fucking stupid cause or something. Yeah.
So we went to that. Remember, we transferred to the Georgia Department of Health. And,
yes, I do. I sure do.
And remember, we were looking at the map with all the colors, dark red being the ones that were heavily
and that was
infected.
more by Atlanta, we thought, right?
Yeah, and then there were 2 counties that had 0 to 1 case.
Right.
Remember?
Yes.
Now there's only 1 county with 0 to 1 case.
Is there more than 3 red or dark red?
2 dark red or 2 red and 1 dark red.
Oh no.
And they're both look like they're Atlanta. And then the dark blue is pretty bad too. And there's about 3 more of those.
Well, did you know that 1,100 or 118,350 people have died today?
Today from everything?
In the world, from everything.
Everything.
Yes.
Okay.
In the world.
What percentage of that was coronavirus deaths?
Well, we could say.
Ange can tell you that
How
part.
many was it? A couple thousand?
How many deaths is in the
hold on
world
a second.
today, Ange?
World?
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Well.
All right. We are, total deaths has been, new deaths today was 3,300. Yesterday was 5,215.
Out of 118,000, so we're talking like 2% of the deaths that happened basically were responsible for this one disease.
Ooh,
Right.
We lost him. He had to go.
That's crazy. That seems like a high percentage. I don't know.
Well, 282,000 people were born today in the world.
Oh, so we're going up still.
Yeah. Oh, we're going up.
Okay, phew. I feel like
You're back, Ryan.
overpopulation caused this anyway.
Yo, sorry, I went to hit the mute button and I hung up.
Well, that's
all
not
right.
very nice of you.
But were you saying the world death was 5,000 or?
No, that's the world death for
everything
Corona
was
today or yesterday, which would be a complete number.
Wow.
Well, Warner, I got some information for you. Did you know that 491,000 TV sets were sold worldwide today?
You got to ask it like a trivia question, like you know,
Well,
give a multiple choice.
I thought I did a pretty
Do
good
you
job.
think you gotta say do? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm pulling a Trump with you.
Yeah.
You should have. What you should have done.
You should have asked,
What you
Josh.
40,000 of these were
All right,
sold.
Warner.
today.
Warner, can you hear
Like
Josh?
Jeopardy, you mean?
I can hear
What are
Josh.
TVs?
Hey, I got a question for you. How many?
Go ahead.
All right, you're gonna have how many overweight people do you think are in the world right now? You got. I'll give you a couple guesses. 2 trillion, 944 million, 1,692
That one.
billion. What we got here? What do you think, Warner?
Numbers.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
That one
yeah.
seemed oddly specific.
Well,
C.
we'll go with the 1,692.
What?
Yeah.
There's not that many people.
Yeah, there
What?
is. All right, 1 billion then we'll go. 1,692,000.
A trillion.
A trillion is a billion billions. Man.
Yeah.
A trillion billion.
So we're just gonna go with 1,692.
That's like one. So that's like 1 in 5, 1 in 6, right?
Yeah.
1,000.
There's a lot of overweight people. It says. Here.
So how about this?
Yeah, but are
All
some
right.
of them so big they count them twice?
Well,
Is that
no.
all just one?
Now the obese
seat.
Like
people.
you're above this mark. You're
There's
2
755 million obese people in the world.
Oh yeah, I've seen them.
Oh. All right.
That's
Nate,
it?
Nate has seen them.
That's it, really?
So
755 million?
Oh, I thought you said 1,000.
No, million.
Oh, yeah, that makes more sense.
All right.
So
There's
Nate,
gonna be
has
a
there
lot
been
more after
anything?
quarantine.
Has there been anything positive that has come out of this quarantine, as far as maybe self-discipline or something you've been meaning to do that you've been doing more? Is there anything that like the silver lining in this whole thing?
No, that only lasted for like a month. I mean, working out and stuff, but it's nothing I wasn't doing before.
Oh, right.
Oh,
I was doing it before though, so it's not.
I'll work out.
Yeah.
Was today leg day?
Well, my big
sleeping
thing
more?
was that I
Today was leg
had a
day.
big problem with always eating out, and I always I spent a lot of money at restaurants and tips, and I realized I did an Instacart groceries.
What the fuck is going on over there?
I did the.
Did I do it again? God damn it, man.
Chris
I'm
lifts his
sorry.
arms. He's like, it's not me.
I'm sorry, man. I keep thinking if I hold the phone away, you can't hear anything.
What are you
but
doing? Mixing some paint? Blup, blup,
I got
blup,
it.
blup.
Yeah, I'm fucking
Sounds like
around with
you're
stuff.
fucking doing a chemist set over there. Fucking.
No,
Yeah, so, like,
buckets are loud.
I bought groceries and they asked me to tip, and I realized in that moment that I hadn't tipped anybody in like 46 days for like food or anything. I had to make every meal, everything I've eaten in all those
did
days.
you give
so
them the
Did you give him
whole
a
thing?
46 times the tip? Yeah.
Give them the whole thing.
no,
Ange?
but I was Good. Nice. I did all right.
No, they do fine. I mean, not that they,
Yeah.
but they do fine.
Right.
No, I'm the opposite. I ate in all the time, and now I'm like, well, I gotta support local restaurants.
Oh, so you're ordering
yeah.
food?
So I'm getting like the stadium in Oxford is so damn good.
Wow,
Really?
that's crazy.
I never heard anybody say that.
Really?
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a
Oh.
lot.
They make really good burgers.
Yeah,
there.
and you just go.
Oh.
They tell you to park out back and call when you get there, and they run it out. And
Oh, nice.
it's no contact, nothing. It's not
Oh, that's
bad.
perfect.
I mean, I'm sure most places do that, similar to that. So.
Oh, a lot have been. Curbside.
Yeah, so that would be
Never
a
thought
negative.
you'd see it in Norwich or Oxford, huh?
Yeah, it probably is negative. Well, I'm supporting
Negative
the
on your
economy,
pocket.
though.
Yeah, you're supporting the economy.
Yeah, I'm taking a hit.
for the people.
Yeah, for the people.
They closed down all the private businesses, and then there's all these tariffs on foreign trade, and then the virus hit, so everyone is shopping at Walmart and Amazon now. I
Yeah.
feel like that was planned somehow.
Shout out to my dad. He works at Walmart.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure.
It's like it's in. Oh, hey, Warner, you still with us, or did you mute us? This actually leads right into what you were saying. How
Muted
a
us.
long time back,
That
he can hear me though.
cocksucker.
Where he talked about how the smart thing for places like Walmart and Amazon to do would be to basically buy these struggling communities, the whole
Right.
community,
Right.
and then instead of it being a Walmart supercenter, they would structure Walmart around the whole town. There'd be the Walmart ice cream store, the Walmart shoe store, the Walmart everything.
They can make it like a dome, biodome.
No, they just buy the town,
2020.
the existing town.
But then the Waltons still get a cut of everything?
Oh yeah.
They
Well, I
would be they would be everything. It would be like a decompartmentalized store spread throughout a town. So instead of bringing them all together like a department store,
That's crazy.
they would just buy up all the, especially after this when all the businesses go
Yeah,
out.
I mean it's going to be almost inevitable, but they obviously are looking at real estate. But the next move is that everything's so down and depressed that they're going to want to boost the world a little bit and bring back like. But then again,
Town
maybe
jobs.
not. We don't.
No,
yeah.
it pays for them. It pays them for people to be employed because
Well, and this circumstance where now instead of it having everybody going to the same store and using the same registers, instead it's like your specialty item. I'm going to get shoes. I'm not going, you know what I'm saying? So then you're not interacting with as many people too. So it's almost
What
like
about,
a
what about
drone
those like
ways.
just drone deliveries.
out in Oregon? There was it like
Well,
those
that- and
Amazon
obviously that's
stores or
happening.
whatever, where you just walk in, you grab your shit, and you go out and it
Oh yeah, you scan it on your phone or whatever.
or you
just
don't even have
walk
to
out.
scan. Yeah, it like knows what
Or
you
it
took.
scans your cart. Yeah,
It knows what you took when you take it off the shelf and who did it and all this. It's wild. I was watching a thing on it.
Yeah, it would be a no contact store basically.
Yes,
Like,
they started that out in Oregon. I think it was a few months ago, man. Well, before this all hit.
I laughed because I had that Janine Pirro.
Oh, dude.
It came up in my head because you guys said the chips and that time when she was like, I half drunk, and she was trying to. Oh shit!
I saw a little skit on her by accident the other night.
A Saturday Night Live one.
Yeah, but I think it was old. They had that blonde girl to be in that Ingram lady
it was
from
just
Fox.
Old. Okay, I don't know. That doesn't sound like it would be
Laura Ingram.
They're the hot topic. You got
Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Janine Pirro.
Well, they had her Ingram,
Laura Ingram,
and then she cut off
Hannity,
to
Tucker Carlson,
to Pirro, and she fucking was getting wasted, but it was kind of funny for a minute, even though I don't know who that Pirro lady is.
But, because you just saw that they were picking on her. That was
and the only reason I really knew who she was, well, I mean, I guess I've heard or seen like a meme with her in it, but I heard her talk the other day because you played it for us.
When I played that one.
Yeah, she sounds totally off her fucking gourd. Yeah,
and she was like half
off
drunk.
her meds.
But what's kind of cool about that?
She
Nate,
really
is
was
that
drunk,
all these news people. I don't know. They're home, and,
right?
And all these news people and all these like late night shows are doing their thing from home. And they're just using the same
I saw
technology that we're using.
Yeah, exactly. But
like with
what
a green
worse?
screen. Well, they got like all the money in the world and all that stuff, and we're and they're these like professional.
Yeah, but I saw some of these fuckers, dude, and that looks like they're.
And that's what I'm saying.
Like using a cell phone camera.
And now they're trying to enter the podcast world, and they're kind of like they're screwing up a little bit, as far as they'll be back on track, I'm sure. But
well, maybe.
Well, they get people come in. I'm sure Janine Pirro didn't set up her system in there.
Yeah, you know how many people can actually work from home? Like
thousands.
Yeah, like they
maybe
really
more.
like they really don't need to go to. Like some people really don't need to go to work. Like it's gonna be like that for a while. I would.
No, I mean also college. All the kids that were gonna be going to college and that were in college. I mean, it's really messed up, man.
University of Phoenix is ahead of the curve, weren't they?
Yeah.
Right? Online courses, man.
Well, the curve hasn't even hit Phoenix yet.
Right.
So they're way ahead of it.
Way ahead.
All right, guys. I gotta sign off.
He's got shit.
You got one more song?
No, he already packed up, man. He's already got that guitar.
I got appointments. I got to go cleanse myself for appointments.
Yeah, you got
all right, brother.
Cleanse his colon.
Well, hey, thanks so much, Nate, for coming in and joining us. And let's, like I said, get on a rotation and get back in.
Anytime.
Listen in on us. Give us a call. Join our thing, and
anytime to get out of the house. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Later, Nate.
Anytime. Later, Ryan. Oh, you can talk now.
Yeah.
Nate, well, we do this show 7 days a week, so if you want to get out of the house, so there's only 7 days in my week, but if you want to get out of the house, you can come down here and play.
You guys know I'm always available.
All right.
Let me know.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
we'll be
you.
back.
All right, man.
Chris, do you have any sleep music?
Ooh. Hey, why don't I?
Tell
he's
me.
closing out and getting out of here. I'm gonna play a Chaka tune from the
You're gonna
archives
interrupt
here.
Chris?
Oh, I was just saying that so we could close up. We could say our goodbyes.
All right.
Unless he's ready and already out.
No, he's not. Play the Chaka.
All right, guys. We're gonna give you
What are you gonna play?
Let's see. I'm gonna do
an original.
This one is from Chaka. This is our version of Red Lights for all our listeners out there. Listening to the mAng and Neads show live on Sonic Gardens Radio.
Boy, again. Red light, stop right there where you are. Red light, stop right there where you are. Out of the frying pan into the fire, burning down the people's soul. My high anxiety is getting higher, feels like I'm gonna blow. Gone is the breeze that used to be so sweet, poisoning the women's soul. And it can't be long till the military come with a knock, knock, knock on your door. Red light, stop right there where you are. This is a red light, stop right there where you are. Red light, stop right there where you are. Red light, stop right there where you are.
Yeah. He's here. We're back, everybody. Welcome.
Huh?
Listening to
He waits till you go live.
mAng and Neads show.
And then he comes for you.
Live at Sonic Gardens Radio.
He's like, I'll wait till he's live and then I'll walk in there.
He
mAng and
forgets
Neads.
that.
He forgets that.
That was his cue.
Yeah.
That was his cue. Our musician guy's a little static.
What, your son flushed the phone down the toilet, Warner?
I have I have a waterfall in my backyard,
Oh.
so
Oh,
I'm just standing too close to it.
Yeah, I forgot you were getting romantic out there in Oxford.
Oh yeah,
Oh, waterfall.
Zen garden.
Did your
But
wife?
we're about to go.
Did your wife
Hopefully
build
get
it
some
up for you?
fiddleheads, man.
Oh, really?
I heard those are poking their little fiddleheads up.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna head out and do that. So I'll catch you guys. Catch you tomorrow, man.
All right,
I'll really try to call you early. I'll try to call you, or you call me.
All right, I'll
before.
call you.
Maybe we'll try to work out that video thing.
Pre-set
All right.
up. Yeah, that sounds good, man.
Cool.
Sweet.
Later,
guys.
dude.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Later, brothers.
Late, man.
Yeah, the great Ryan Warner.
The great.
The lion
The
tamer.
lion
The
tamer.
lion painter.
Yes.
Yeah.
The animal doctor. Dickie.
And the animal doctor.
Dickie Doolittle.
All in one.
All right. We're going to cut her down. It's Sunday.
Nice. Jesse, Brian Miller.
And
my
your
sister Laura. I didn't catch those, man. I guess I got to keep my eyes looking. They've been up there a while.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
A long while.
So, Jesse, let me know. What
Jesse.
day. I got you in for Tuesday, man.
Jesse?
So if you want to come in,
Jesse?
strum it out. Tuesday. I got some new headphones coming.
Yeah.
I think they'd be there by then. So we do have a, but yesterday the way, too, you can just strum it out with the guitar and vocals.
Yeah.
And just like you do every day.
Hey, there he is. All right. So
what else?
Well, we had Nate here, which was a good day.
Good ad.
For
sure, man. Anytime.
We got to give Benny a shout out for yesterday.
Yep, Buckshot's brother.
Buckshot's brother.
He was our the guinea pig to try it out, and I think we had an all-out success with the layout, the lion.
Yeah.
I mean, man, it's tough to beat that, that location.
Right.
And it's like ideas when they come to you. I don't know who said it. If you said it.
Yeah, it's all right.
You said it.
Yeah.
You said, why don't you set up in front of the lion?
With the light, though. The light was the key, though, too.
Right.
I mean, the lion is fucking beautiful, but that light just, the way it changes is just, especially when Kris was playing that elevator trap music or whatever it is. It's beautiful. It's a nice lion anyways.
Yeah, all around.
That was whoever's idea to put a lion in there was
that was
good
the great.
idea.
I like it. A lion is, and also I am technically I am a Leo.
Oh.
Born
I didn't know
August 19th.
Oh, that's what a Leo is.
Yeah. So
and the
Leos,
lion is a Leo?
yeah, that's the Leo. Probably the
What are you, Kris? What's your
He's a Pisces.
Oh.
Fish.
Oh.
Fish head.
I'm a fucking Gemini, but I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know nothing about. I mean,
let's do it, man.
What?
Fuck it. I'm gonna look up a Gemini because I like you and you're an interesting character.
Yeah,
and
you're gonna read. I do. I mean, I don't know what.
Here's my theory on that.
Symbol is
everybody has like every trait.
Right.
So if you read something, then obviously the things that are gonna be more to your liking. So I think that a lot of the stuff,
Nowadays, dude,
everybody's everything.
Like you go to read one of them horoscopes, like especially if you're doing it off one of your devices that you're, what I mean, they can follow your patterns and fucking. Well. Did you find anything?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Mr. Josh, today, May 3rd, 2020, you might have questions about the satisfactions you feel about your personal life. You may be...
This is great already.
You may be feeling the pressure of an increasing list of responsibilities and chores. Things seem so urgent to you now. Why not take advantage of this attitude to talk about your deepest desires with your partner or best friend? Hey, man.
They want me to chat.
Things will be much clearer. You may just need to express. I'm sorry. You may just need to express some of your more difficult emotions. It's important to do this before you begin to resent this person. No matter how in tune with you they can be at times, your partner or bestie are not mind readers. You have to speak up for yourself and ask for what you need. And remember to listen as well. You got this.
You got it. You got it, Joshua. Well,
go get him, Gemini.
Go get him, Gemini. On that note, I mean, I'm pretty, I like to say what I feel a lot. I'm pretty much on that,
Yeah, that was the horoscope. I guess I didn't look up the actual
hot topic.
like who you are, like
right.
what kind of
fucking wildfire. All right.
How about Gemini sign character?
Here we go.
Gemini sign characteristics.
What are they?
Let's see.
It's
Let's
funny.
see. All right, what day?
What, today?
What day were you born?
Oh, the 3rd.
Of June.
Yeah. What's today, May 3rd? It's exactly a month away, Angelo.
The decade.
Well, not a decade away, a month.
And then you're born 78, right?
Oh, yeah, back then.
Do you know what time you were born?
I'm going to go with 7-something in the morning or something like that. Maybe it was 2 in the morning. I don't know. For some reason, 7 and 2 in the morning around that times come up.
So we'll just go with, you know what? We'll
Could
go
be totally
back
wrong,
and say
though.
No.
Oh, it was a while ago.
Oh, my God.
What did it say?
You're
You're
just
fucked?
asking too many goddamn questions.
Oh, no. Oh, it's like a fill in the
No,
fucking-
like, what country?
Oh.
State? Like, what does all that matter? That's like the kind of person you are. They like break it down.
Yeah, it's because it's like they feed
Where were you
off.
born? Norwich?
Yeah. New York.
Yeah, man. Not Norwich Corners.
Not Norwich, Connecticut.
You are
Fuck.
you were born a male, right? Oh, come on.
What?
They can't.
Oh. Well. We're assuming I was born a male.
Okay. They
All
gave
right.
us a couple.
Oh.
No, this. It's a.
Yeah.
You know, they always get you. They
Yeah.
always get
What, they
you.
want money?
They just wanted me to give them an email and they
No,
send
fuck
me some
that. That's so
shit.
stupid. These fucking people.
You can't just
They
give me
can't
the
just tell
shit.
you some fucking line of bullshit.
Yeah, that's all we're looking for. Some bullshit.
That's the homework we should do. We should
That's
each come
why.
in with our own horoscope tomorrow,
that's why
made up.
That's why that Jim Baker and these guys get so much business because people are hungry for bullshit. you know?
Right. That's what I'm saying. We could get a whole spiel. We get Warner to give it just talk. We get out there. We get him religious. Get him out there making the money. They come up with a him and Johnny that take turns. The brothers of Christ, we'll call them. All right. Well, until the next day. Monday.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for listening, tuning in. Big thanks to Nate Collins and
The great
Chris, of
Nate.
course. You guys doing that is awesome.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get anybody wants to come in and perform.
Thank you, Chris.
A few songs, join our banter. We'd be happy to have you. And yeah.
Call the
So,
heat line.
Yeah, we got a hotline 607-373 Heat.
This is the mAng and Neads show, yo.
We're going to cut you guys out with some Sonic Gardens tunes.
And I'm out of here. Thanks for being heaven and with us. We appreciate it. Subscribe, like Angelo says, if you can. Tell your cousin. I'm out.
All right,
Thanks
Josh.
for having me.
Peace, man.
Treading water. Thank you, Christopher. Sounded swell. May the good shepherd bring you home.
out she's not feeling alright. 24 hours can be a long time to be lying dead from the previous night. Now stay I here, drink myself a beer. All night long I sing this song to you, call on me, yeah. Tomorrow will come and the sun will shine. I'll be sitting here right by your side. Let the music soothe your soul. Let the music take control. Everything you do or say comes back to you. Things don't work out right, you gotta push on. Keep on rocking, keep on moving, yeah. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Keep on smiling, keep on laughing, yeah. Every little thing's gonna be alright. Playing on your radio, coming through your stereo, and everybody's getting home. You can seem to let it go, running from the video. Can you feel the weight of sound in your eyes? You focus on the lights for tonight. Just relax and let's get high. I said the sun, it is a signal. I'm thinking that it's time to go, and everybody's getting home. You can't seem to let it go, running from the video, haunted by the weight of sound. It's just love, there's nothing that's more real. This love, the way it makes you feel.
mAng and Neads.